There are things in this world we can't bring ourselves to destroy, even if we know they could be dangerous. For example, your childhood home or that one sweater your mom knitted for you that really doesn't look good at all. But there's one thing that we have been unable to destroy since the dawn of humanity, and that is our planet's supervolcanoes. In today's episode, we will unearth some of these sleeping giants scattered across the globe and explore what would happen should they erupt again. You might not remember learning about these behemoths in school, but don't feel bad. Even though supervolcanoes have the potential to wipe out life on Earth, we've mostly forgotten they exist. That's because their eruptions happened way before our written history began, and although they may seem quiet now, these ancient giants still pose a hidden threat. So let's dive into what exactly a supervolcano is and why scientists are once again sounding the alarm. Let's start with a little bit of volcano science. Volcanoes happen when hot magma from deep within the Earth bursts through the crust, bringing with it molten rock, ash, and gases that incinerate everything around them. But not all volcanoes are created equal. Scientists classify them by how explosive they are based on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, or VEI, with 8 being the worst. Most volcanoes fall between 1 and 3. Small ones blow off steam. Medium ones cause localized damage, and big ones throw up columns of ash miles high. However, every once in a while, one of these bad boys shoots up to a 7 or 8. These are the supervolcanoes. But what makes these babies so super? Well, it's their eruption magnitude. These are volcanoes that have erupted with more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material. To put that into perspective, Mount St. Helens, the US volcano famous for its near-perfectly shaped crater, has an official VEI rating of 5. It erupted in 1980 and unleashed about 24 cubic kilometers of material. In contrast, the largest known supereruption was that of the Toba supervolcano in Indonesia. It violently spewed a whopping 2,800 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice. The second biggest was New Zealand's Mount Egmont, with 2,600 cubic kilometers. Mount Vesuvius, which wiped out the Roman city of Pompeii, rated a mere 5 on the VEI. That's like a toddler in a room full of babies. Now we're going to talk about some of the biggest supervolcanoes out there and where they're located. This is important, because if one of these were to go off today, this is the damage it would do. Yellowstone National Park is most famous for its geysers, and is a great vacation spot for those looking to get away from it all, except for the bears. But it's also home to the Yellowstone supervolcano. Sitting right underneath the northern part of the park, this baby's magma chamber is so large it spans 3 states, parts of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. The reason Yellowstone hasn't blown up in a while is because it's a mantle plume volcano. Unlike your typical subduction zone volcanoes that are fueled by the collision of tectonic plates, mantle plume volcanoes draw their power from hotspots in the Earth's mantle. These stay active for a long time, but aren't necessarily destructive. While Yellowstone is technically considered active, it hasn't erupted in over 640,000 years. Instead, its magma chamber slowly refills, creating vast underground reservoirs of molten rock. As it fills up, pressure builds until the magma finds a weak spot in the crust and erupts. When it does blow its top, it sends out lava flows that spread out across the entire region. The last major eruption 640,000 years ago ejected about 1,700 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice. Today, the area remains highly monitored by the United States Geological Survey, or USGS. They keep tabs on earthquakes, ground deformation, and changes in heat flow to give us a heads up should there be any signs of trouble. So far, no need to worry, but if it did erupt tomorrow, here's what would happen. First, thousands of earthquakes would hit the region, some as powerful as an 8 on the Richter scale. Then steam, ash, and poisonous gases would shoot into the air. Hot pyroclastic flows would race down the valleys, incinerating everything in their path. And finally, the lava flows would start pouring out, turning the whole area into a sea of fire and rock. If it were to happen today, it would take out much of the surrounding areas, especially the city of West Yellowstone, Montana. The surrounding states would see huge spikes in temperature, and wildfires would rage out of control. The ash would blanket much of the western United States. So if you live there, better grab yourself an air filter. Located in the middle of the Indian Ocean, the Kerguelen Plateau is one of the largest flood basalt provinces on the planet. These are massive igneous structures made from hundreds of individual lava flows that cover huge areas of the Earth's surface. Basalt is a type of lava that's rich in magnesium and iron and low in silica, so when it cools, it creates huge solidified plains. On average, basaltic lava flows are pretty chill. They move slowly and don't explode very often, but when they do, they create what we call a lava lake. These happen when lava fills a crater and creates a temporary lake. The water eventually evaporates and leaves behind solid rock. Back in 1974, one of these eruptions happened on the big island of Hawaii. Lava from the Mauna Ulu volcano flowed into a pre-existing crater called Halemaumau, forming a new lava lake. By 1975, the lava lake had risen 230 meters up the crater wall and covered the rim, forming a natural dam. When it overflows, it rushes down the mountainside. If the Kerguelen Plateau were to erupt today, it would be devastating. The first sign would be thousands of earthquakes along the central Rift Valley. Then ash and toxic gases would fill the air, hot lava flows would destroy everything in their path, and lava lakes would spill over the sides of craters and flow outwards. It would be a fiery apocalypse for anyone living nearby. The only saving grace is that it's incredibly remote. The closest human settlements are over 5,000 kilometers away. While Yellowstone and Kerguelen are currently quiet, the same can't be said for Mount Vesuvius. In 79 AD, it blew its top and sent hot ash and pumice raining down on the nearby Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum. The smaller city of Herculaneum was closer to Vesuvius and felt the full force of the eruption. Its buildings were completely incinerated and buried under 20 meters of volcanic debris. It's been described as the single worst natural disaster in the history of Rome, and scientists think that Vesuvius is due for another major eruption. According to Scientific American, it could happen in the next 3,000 years, but it could happen tomorrow. In fact, many researchers believe that the 1631 eruption that killed 5,000 people was just a warm-up for the real thing. So if it were to blow up again today, here's what would happen. The Naples International Airport would be the first to go, followed by the coastal cities of Torre del Greco, Ercolano, Castellammare di Stabia, and Pompeii. About 3 million people would be directly affected. Many would die from pyroclastic flows and falling ash. Others would struggle to breathe in the toxic air or have their homes destroyed. Italy would declare a state of emergency, and the rest of Europe would scramble to help. Supervolcanoes are truly terrifying, but thankfully, there isn't one sitting in downtown metropolis ready to blow. Most of the ones we know about are either in the middle of nowhere or on other continents. But that doesn't mean we should let our guard down. As we've seen, a small chance of eruption exists for all of them, so it's always best to be prepared. Maybe we should invest in some gas masks or start learning how to fight forest fires. Or maybe we should just stick to praying we never hear the roar of a supervolcano waking up. If you liked this video, check out my other episodes covering volcanoes like Why Doesn't Mount St. Noggins Erupt Anymore and Could Vesuvius Erupt Again? And for more videos about the amazing science happening all around us, be sure to subscribe.